You are looking at the task review sheet. Start with the status column. One task has a clear owner and date. The next row is yellow because nobody owns it. Another is yellow because Friday is not a safe deadline to assume. The client commitment is red and blocked. One repeated note was skipped. Nothing was approved or sent. In this build, you will create this exact free Google Docs to Sheets workflow. Meeting notes can look complete while the work remains invisible. A sentence does not become accountable until it has an owner, a real due date, and a review state. This workflow automates that preparation. It does not guess missing facts. It does not promise anything to a client. A person still resolves ambiguity and approves the final task. Here is the whole system. Google Docs holds the meeting note. Short action markers identify the lines that may become tasks. App Script reads those lines and checks the owner, date, and type. Google Sheets becomes the review queue. Clear rows wait for approval. Ambiguous rows stay blocked. Client commitments require an explicit review note. The automation prepares. The operator decides. You are in the source Google Doc. Look at the lines that begin with action. Each line has 4 parts: type, owner, ISO, date, and action text. A client-facing promise begins with client commitment instead. Maya has a real owner and date. The next task says TBD. Another says Friday. Those values remain unresolved on purpose. This tiny structure is less magical than AI extraction. It is also easier to test, explain, and trust. Now look across the task review sheet. Action, owner, and due date describe the proposed work. Source quote preserves the exact note that created the row. Confidence only tells you whether the required fields were explicit. It does not approve the task. Status is the operational gate. Ready for review can be checked. Needs owner and needs date require correction. Client review protects an external promise from silent approval. You are back in the blank spreadsheet. Open extensions, then App Script. Replace the placeholder with the copyrighty file linked below and save. Choose Setup Task Review and click Run once. Review the requested Google permissions for your own project. The setup prompt asks for the source Google Doc URL. Paste it and continue. The script creates task review and extraction log, then adds a meeting tasks menu to the spreadsheet. Stay in App Script and focus on Parse Task Line. The parser accepts only the visible 4-part format. Missing owners become needs owner. Dates must be real calendar dates written as year, month, and day. Anything else becomes needs date. The exact source line also receives a stable source ID. If the same line appears again, the ID matches and the duplicate is skipped. Text that could act like a sheet formula is stored safely as text. Back in Sheets, open the Meeting Tasks menu. Choose Extract Proposed Tasks. The confirmation reports 4 new rows and 1 duplicate skipped. Now scan the status column. Every source line has a visible outcome. The script did not approve a task. It did not create a client message. It only prepared the review queue. That boundary is the reason this workflow is safe to run again. Look at the second task row. The source note says TBD in the owner field. The workflow does not replace that gap with the meeting organizer or the last person mentioned. Owner stays TBD. Status becomes needs owner. If you try to approve the row, the script stops and names the exact row that needs an owner. Visible friction is better than false accountability. Move to the next yellow row. Due date says Friday. That word depends on when the meeting happened, which time zone applies, and what the speaker meant. The parser refuses to convert it silently. Status becomes needs date. Replace Friday with a real date in year, month, day format. The row can move forward only after that context becomes explicit. Open the extraction log sheet. 4 entries say created. The repeated Meyer action says duplicate skipped. Its source ID matches the first copy because the document and source line are unchanged. Return to task review. There is no 5th task. Rerunning the extraction produces the same protection instead of multiplying work. The red row is a client commitment. Even with a clear owner and date, status stays client review. Select it and try to approve without a review note. The script blocks the action. Now add the context a responsible operator checked, such as confirmed with the project lead. Select the row again, then choose Approve Selected Rows. Status becomes approved and approved at records the decision. No email was sent. No promise left the business automatically. The finished queue makes the handoff measurable. This note produced 4 unique tasks. 2 fields needed correction. 1 client commitment required explicit review. 1 duplicate was stopped. Track 3 operating metrics from here: unknown tasks, time waiting for review, and completion rate after approval. The goal is not to remove human work. The goal is to put human judgment exactly where it matters. You now have a free meeting-to-task workflow with a visible approval boundary. The copy-ready script, note format, and test checklist are linked below. Start with fictional notes. Prove the missing owner, ambiguous date, duplicate, and client commitment cases before using a real meeting. Send this to the person who writes the notes and still has to chase every owner afterward. The next build turns recurring reports into an exception queue.